You are listening to Cemetery Confessions, the world's #1 goth talk podcast.
Hello and welcome back to Cemetery Confessions. Just about every content creator out there has shared their take on the epidemic of pick-me girls playing into the harmful stereotype of the young, dumb, and ready-to-come goth girl. On today's episode, we are going to examine where this commodification of femme-presenting goths comes from, and what the difference between goths' internal sexual liberation and the outsider male gaze is. We will also delve into the so-called red-pilled quote-unquote goths to understand why conservatives want so desperately to be included in our subculture and whether or not they should have a seat at the table. Our guests this month are YouTuber Goth Beezy, goth blogger Shallow Crypt, and longtime artist Goth and former social worker Matt. As always, I am your host, Danny Ashes, and I'm here with my co-host Trey. Let's just get into it. How and when did you discover goth? Beezy, I'd love for you to go first if you don't mind being the sacrificial lamb.
Sure, of course. I grew up in a very Mormon Christian household. And when we left Mormonism and I went to my public school for the first time, I met this girl and she was very alternative. She actually lived with us for a while and she showed me all the music and the clothes and everything. And I remember my mom was like, "Hey, it's going to be your first day of public school. What do you want to wear?" And I was like, "Can you take me to Hot Topic?" like 13, like take me to Hot Topic. She was like, thankfully, she was very supportive of it. And she was like, "All right, let's go." So I went I was wearing skulls and bracelets and all that cool stuff around the age of 13.
Kat, what about you? How did you get involved with or initially discover the goth scene?
Okay, first off, it's not as cool as that story. So I think my intro to goth is so corny. So, growing up, both of my parents are Jamaican. My whole family's Jamaican. Mm-hmm. And they migrated over here, Canada, because I'm Canadian. We moved down to the States. And we lived in New York for a really long time. My mom was kind of like out of the house a lot. My grandparents were very strict, so like I was on the internet a lot. Mm-hmm. And I discovered Evanescence. Yep, I told you it was corny.
I love her.
I love
She's having
her
a comeback now.
Well, yeah. I'm personally I'm a little bit upset about the new music. That's another topic. But I basically I've always had a love for like the macabre. I've always been very interested in that. But obviously, growing up with strict grandparents, I couldn't really express that at the time.
Yeah. So
it was really just a lot more online. I started listening to Evanescence. First song, Everybody's Fool. And then branched off from there. Mm-hmm. And then I made a Facebook like when I was about 13 or so, because all my little friends were doing that as well. And then I started discovering like the goth pages and the goth groups and everything. So I asked a lot of questions. I especially talked to a lot of black goths as well, just because I felt kind of alone for a long time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that made me feel like a little bit more comfortable being in the scene. Now, there is a creator I did talk to a lot, but they're not good people anymore. They're pretty infamous.
I might know who you mean, but yeah.
They're pretty infamous.
Yeah.
But I talked to them a lot, and they helped me just learn a lot more about like what goth is in terms of like where the music started, And any questions I had, I always asked them, and I learned more and more. And then as I continued, like getting older, I'm 26 now. I just kept talking to older goths. I did my own research, and I just experienced the goth subculture in real life by going to like clubs or the goth flea market, like when I can, and just really embracing it. And that's
Yeah.
kind of my origin.
Yeah. I feel like I'm among my people now with the conservative guardians and like growing up culture. Because sometimes I have people on, they're like, "Oh yeah, my mom introduced me to Susie and the Banshees, and my dad told me
she
about
was a
Sisters of
punk
Mercy."
back in the 80s.
I'm like,
and
okay,
all that.
all right,
You
showing
can
your
flex
privilege
on
a
me
little
less.
much. Yeah.
Right.
No, it's all good. And Matt, what about you?
Well, I'm one of those that grew up in a religious family, but not conservative. My parents were very progressive. My parents are also Canadian immigrants. They lived in Ontario and moved to Alabama in the 60s to support the civil rights movement. So that kind of gives you an idea of
Nice.
Now, imagine growing up in Alabama, and there's just not much of this kind of a culture there. Well, I was the painfully awkward, uncool kid. I was artsy, into comic books, not good at sports. I'm 6'5", but terrible at basketball. That's already an outcast and a misfit. I'm watching TV, I'm watching MTV, and a video comes on, and it's like nothing I've ever seen. It's psychedelic and counterculture, and this wicked-looking elf of a man is playing guitar, and I was like, "What is this?" And it was Daniel Ash. And Daniel Ash, he saw David Bowie on TV, and how it affected him. Well, Daniel Ash was my David Bowie moment, and I was like, "What is this? Who is that? This elf of a man, just like nothing I've ever seen on Alabama music." That actually led me to Love and Rockets, and I worked backward from there to Bauhaus on Tail. And friends of mine got me into Bauhaus. I ran to the record store and bought the double LP, having never heard a note of it. And from then on, I was ruined. This was around like in the 80s. I was a 15-year-old kid finding all of this in the 80s. And I have never looked back. That has been my musical guide and my tribe ever since then, and it still is.
Incredible.
Well,
you see what I mean? Everyone has cool stories.
Everyone has cool
yours
stories.
is cool too.
It's cooler when it's not your own story sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
But you do
That's
have
fair.
a cool story. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, so the sort of twin flames of the subjects we're going to be talking about today are our politics and this sort of over-sexualization of goth. And I think we're going to start with that second one. And I thought we would start with the most, to do a callback, the most hot topic aspect of this, which is the of this sort of hypersexualized alt-goth woman caricature, which I think became more and more visible. Not that it hasn't always been there, but from memes, YouTube videos, songs, TikTok videos, AI videos now. Over the last few years, I think this has started to become more and more visible of this sort of goth girl portrayed as sexually deviant yet submissive and ready to put out and all of this kind of thing. And what we're seeing now and what everybody is talking about recently are the women who are creating content around this. Most infamously are the 4 content creators, I believe, called the Goth House. But I haven't paid super close attention, so I thought we could start with some background context. And Beezy, I know you've made a couple videos about this. So could you kind of fill in sort of who are the Goth House content creators, what's going on with that?
Yeah, so oh goodness. The Goth House girls are they're a group of 4 women who portray themselves as goth. And I don't know if you guys have heard of the alt bop house.
I've heard of it. but I didn't see it when it was happening.
Yeah, so it's like the group of, sex workers, kind of the Bop House, they actually live together.
Mhm.
I don't know about the Goth House. I don't know if they live together, but it's kind of built around the same format of like we're all of us together, and we make content together for our OFs, stuff like that. There has been a really big discourse with them among the Goth community as of late. And like you said, I really do think with TikTok, and just feels like Goth is becoming a little bit more popularized and just like watered down, really, to just like this, oh yeah, Goth's just black lipstick and extremely sexual type of thing. Yeah.
And it hasn't, we're going to kind of circle around them. I don't want to necessarily single them out. That's what everyone's been talking about because of these videos with the, like the Pop the Balloon videos, or what, like these dating videos, whatever they are. But since I've been looking into this for this episode, my algorithm has been filled with other people, other women doing the same thing, pseudo goth girls, male wish fulfillment kind of thing. So we'll get more into that. I think where we can sort of start is this question about what the difference is, because goth is historically flagrantly sometimes sexually open.
Yes.
And so maybe I want to hear from everyone. Kat, maybe I can come to you first. Sort of like, what do you see as the difference with this stereotype of goth women and the sexual expression side of goth?
Okay, so it's kind of a tightrope, isn't it?
Yeah.
At least I have always felt that way. Because it's like, on one point, you definitely want to. The thing I've always loved about goth is how it's like, here I am, I don't care. You know what I mean? And I have always appreciated goth for that, but they've always portrayed it in such a artistic style. I feel the sexualization is more of like, look what I can do for you, versus like the more art and expressive one is like, just, this is who I am. I don't care what you think of me. This is just who I am. And I feel like at the core, that's how I've always felt about the difference, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Matt, what do you think about this whole distinction?
I was just listening to Kat talk, and I was thinking, what a good point that was. Like, how well said that was.
Yeah.
I like the way that she was drawing that distinction. That sexualization. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. I just said thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The distinction that sexualization means that the focus of my expression is, what do I offer you? How does who I am fulfill you and provide for you? Whereas sexual empowerment and gender empowerment is, how does this fulfill me? How does my choice of expression uplift myself or my values, my exploration of identity? And that to me is really the dichotomy, is what direction is the intentional fulfillment moving toward, whether it's the viewer, the male gaze, or whether it's my own internal actualization.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Beezy, thoughts
That's great. Yeah. I completely agree with all of that, and I think you guys worded that perfectly. I actually haven't seen, out of all the videos I've been watching and been creating myself, I haven't seen it from that specific point of view, and that's really great. I like that a lot. And with the difference with these is you can tell that they're not doing it for them, as like a, because a lot of people come to my page and be like, well, you're talking about this, but you got your boobs out. And I'm like, okay, here's the thing. Like, look, I'm doing that for my, like, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I just happened to have, women features, I guess, whatever. And I'm not specifically changing my content for the male gaze. This is for me. and my sexual
Right.
empowerment.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Trey, do you have thoughts on that? Because, when you look at, again, sex has always been a part of the goth scene in the music, in the general culture. If you go to a goth event, there's going to be some form of fetish or BDSM or burlesque happening, whether it's in the attendees or on the stage. There's some kind of sexual element. So do you have any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the perspective that I come through is just sort of almost a historical perspective, or at least my lived experience from getting into the goth scene in the 90s to today, and how that perception from the mainstream side of things has shifted. Since even in the early times, at least within the subculture, there was definitely there was a beauty standard, and a lot of women, especially, it was more the beauty side, the sexualized side was usually focused more at women, though there's plenty of men that have a sexualized aesthetic as well. But that was pretty much just a purely, at least the appreciation from a sexualized standpoint was only really appreciated on the inside. You had your like Gothic Beauty magazine, you had Gothic fashion shows and stuff like that, and that was all attended by people who were also goths or consumed by other goths, and that's where the aesthetic was. Whereas when you looked at the mainstream appreciation or lack thereof, through the 80s and in the 90s, especially with like the daytime TV shows, your Ricky Lakes and Maury Poviches, if you were either lived through that or if you go on YouTube and see clips from it, almost everyone has the goth, usually woman, come out, and the mother is like crying about how you look so hideous and no one's ever going to want to marry you. The audience is jeering them as being ugly. The host is saying, you look ugly, you're never going to find a man, you're never going to be interested. So that was kind of the mainstream perception at that point, was that this look that might have aesthetic value internally to the Gothic subculture did not have any seemingly aesthetic value from the outside, which, as portrayed in these shows, was sort of viewed in a negative light. But it's certainly, there's an aspect of that that's kind of nice, right? In light of what today's culture is, where a woman in the Gothic subculture can express her sexuality and express all that without necessarily being more objectified than simply existing as a woman already makes you in society, no matter what you're wearing. And it almost at that point was even an armor against the sexualization pinned on an average looking or mainstream looking woman, this way of making yourself unappealing to the average person when you're out on the street. But that changed, I'd say, sometime around the turn of the century. Like the first I saw where it was seemingly becoming more mainstream was around the Suicide Girls.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I saw much before that where there seemed to be some mainstream acceptance, and I think that was around the late 90s, early 2000s. I think my time frame is skewed, so I'm not really sure. But that was the first time I saw any sort of acceptance where it went from being something viewed as gross and disgusting and ugly from the outside to something being fetishized and an aesthetic edge that people got into. And I think that it dovetailed well with the rise of edgy culture as well, where edginess and edgelords became kind of a thing too. And that became some sort of a mainstream cultural capital to be into the edgy things. And it's increased as time went on through the Instagram era and into the TikTok era and whatnot now, where, like you've pointed out with Goth House and all these other content creators now, and you go to Pornhub or things like that, and it's a large and very popular genre of objectification content that makes people money. So it's interesting seeing that evolution. In one sense, it's progress, right? Because it's an acceptance of an aesthetic, so you're not getting the abuse, but at the same time, it kind of went too far in a bad direction too, and you lost that ability to shield yourself from mainstream objectification by putting on this aversive costume, which has
Right.
now become an allure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to get into that a little bit more as well. But let me ask this question first about gatekeeping and kind of identifying fake goths, because the question of how to approach gatekeeping is not anything new, but I do see it popping up in relation to the goth house now. And yeah, in this case, I'm not sure it actually matters too much whether they are real goths or not, but it is important, I think, to goths to sort of point at and like, well, this is real goth, this is not real goth. So I guess my question is just sort of, how do we differentiate between a goth and a poser when it comes to these content creators, and does it matter?
I get called a gatekeeper a lot, and
All good goths do.
And yeah, it's always by people who aren't even goth. It's just like, okay,
Always.
sure, bud.
Well, that's why you're being called a gatekeeper.
Yeah, exactly. I like to call it safeguarding. You know, I think for me, being able to spot a poser and from a real goth is, with the times that we're in right now, I think with your online activism and how you address certain issues within the goth community really shows if you're goth or not. You know, they have this part in this video where they're like, abolish the government, and it just something, you know, and it just felt so, it didn't feel like what's the word, natural. You know, ever since even before. Yeah. And I don't know for every goth, but at least for me, even as a child, I have always been very like, this isn't right, this isn't fair, and I'm going to say something about it. I was a very difficult child growing up in a Mormon Christian household. And I just always made it, you know, very clear that I don't like this and I'm going to say something about it. And I don't think all goths have to always be super political online, but I do think it is kind of a giveaway if they aren't at all.
Yeah, and that's an interesting... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was going to say, and it's a lot of people get the political. When I say political, I think goth in itself is a political statement against, you know, society norms, etc. People tend to think I just mean Democratic and Republican, but I don't. I'm like, okay, there's more. You guys got to expand your mind a little bit.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. I think that's a very interesting difference between goth when I was younger and goth now, and I do want to actually talk about that a little more in depth. But Kat, can I ask you as well, what's your thought on this sort of gatekeeping thing and calling out people who are fake goths or not? Some people will say, oh, you can't say who's a goth and who isn't. Right. And, you know, what's the reasoning behind that for you?
People who say that, most of them honestly can shut up, because I'm really tired of hearing like, you can't listen. If you're a real goth to me, you platform other goth creators. You platform their music. You platform the things that they're saying, because they're like, hey, these are problems that we're seeing and we want them to be known. Like, I also feel like if you're not really posting, like, not every discussion has to be serious, right?
Right.
Even if it's like little goth memes, like if it's just about the music or, you know, whatever.
For sure.
But my thing is, like, if you're not posting like what makes goth in the first place, like showing how different genres and movements is what shaped goth, then I'm just like, I mean, okay, maybe you're just in it for the aesthetic, which you can do that. But I don't come to me and be like, I'm a real goth. I'm like, you can think that. I'm not gonna stop you, but I feel like a lot of posers or just people who say they're goth or try to gatekeep and stuff, they're the ones who will post something that's black and just throw the label of goth on it, and that really infuriates me.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what if you disagree with like what core goth is, right? and you're throwing this label that you don't really know anything about on it. That's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I find that very irritating.
Yeah.
That's at least how I view the difference, or at least like a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Oh, start the clock. Okay. I am a proud gatekeeper. When someone hurls that at me thinking that they're going to get me to back down, that I'm immune to that, because I agree with something that Beezy said, that we can reframe gatekeeping as ensuring safety. When we stop thinking of it as elitism and we think of it as having strong boundaries, that's an important dynamic. You have to think about why goth exists. I don't just mean like what's it about, like we know it's a music-based subculture, but why is it? And for a lot of us, it's because we needed this to survive. Goth was a survival tribe for a lot of us. We would not have made it through some of the traumas that we lived through without this community, without something that affirmed that our difference, our dark interests, our poetic ideas, that those things had value, that we didn't have to be like tough bro macho jocks. We didn't have to do that to have worth in the greater culture we were in. So when we think of it as not just an artistic and musical community, but also one that fostered our survival, you see why it's so crucial for us that we do caretake it. And for me, it just means that we're pulling weeds. Like, if goth is a thing, and we all agree that it is a thing, then it, by definition, things are goth and things are not goth. And I don't think that that's elitism or snobby for us to acknowledge that.
No.
Yeah, and that's why I like to make sure that we have some delineations about what goth is, and it helps protect those who are in the community collectively. So like what Beezy was saying, like, do I personally get to decide what's goth or not? Well, maybe not, but we as a goth collective do, and have, and will continue to. So I do see gatekeeping as having a really essential part in protecting the space, the art, the creativity, the mindset, and the vulnerabilities of who we are as a subculture.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep. I agree 110%.
Any follow-up comments, Trey?
I mean, I've already expressed very similar things to what Beezy and Matt said. Is my focus on gatekeeping is not about the purity of goth or about who's more goth than others, but is about the establishment and protection of safe spaces.
Right.
Places where you can express yourself, be the delightfully dark freak that you are without being, harassed, picked on, objectified, or in this case, now becoming viewed as sexually available and put in dangerous situations because people assume your availability, or that they can touch, they can express things to you, or because you are already existing outside of the norms, then the norms of social respectability don't apply to you, and so they can do whatever the fuck they want. And that's what I view the value of gatekeeping is we can't fix that in the real world directly as easily, but we can at least give people a respite from that, a space where they can go and not have to worry as much about that. Not perfect, which is why I have to caveat that, but it gives you a little bit of a respite, I hope.
Something that non-goths may not understand about goths is that we aren't goth for them. We're not performing for them. If they see goth as a consumable, or they see it as a commodity, then they see our identity as goth as something we perform for them. And so they think it's fair game for them to consume what it is that they think we're providing for them.
Right.
And Trey got me thinking about that, and I think that's kind of an important distinction.
Yeah.
That's
and I'm going to
very
come back.
good point.
Please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm going to come back to that as well. Just sort of in the question around what drives these sort of behaviors, and I think that's definitely a big reason for it. But before I got to that, I wanted to touch on something Trey had said earlier when he brought up the Pornhub and that sort of thing, because there is also this, there's two sides of that. I've also seen this strain of like Puritanism in online discourse that points their anger towards sex workers, towards women showing their bodies as you're the problem. What's your perspective on whether sex workers are feeding into this trend of men turning goth girls into their fetish? And Beezy, if you want to start, that'd be great.
Yeah, I definitely have been working on directing it away from the sex work itself, because when you do post this stuff, it's a very thin line. People will take it and see it as a chance to be misogynistic and comment their purist feelings or thoughts or mindset on OF or sex workers in general. And, you know, I have to say, hey, or I just delete the comments, or, you know, I say, hey, look, we're not attacking the sex work. Sex work is fine, you know, sexual empowerment. That's what we're all about. The issue lies when they're like, you know, they are, I wouldn't necessarily say it's all their fault. I do think they do perpetuate some of the issues, especially by infantilizing themselves and dressing up as school children. Those are issues within itself. I think men can think for themselves and act on their own decisions. So, you know, I've had a conversation with a friend who also makes these videos about the goth house, and she has referred to saying this is the reason why men, you know, attack us. And I kind of let her know, I was like, hey, the way that you're wording that, it can be dangerous to sex workers. And I don't want that to be flipped onto sex workers. It kind of needs to just be brought back to education and what the goth community is and what the goth subculture is, what our lifestyle is. I don't think we need to attack sex workers as a whole. Yeah. So there's a big of that. Yeah.
Kat, thoughts?
Well, Beezy just said everything I was just probably going to say. But to add on to it, it's like the way, like when I was talking about like how sexuality is like presented in the goth scene, it's like how people take art and turn it into sex. And that's always how I've seen it. It's like this weird, when I see that Puritanism thing, it's like a weird perverted version of like whatever they think modesty is. And I have always, I don't know, it's to me, I think it's such a tricky fine line situation, because on one hand you have people who are expressing themselves, but people who use it to fuel a fetishism, I say, why? It kind of, I guess like what I'm trying to say is that it just really sucks because there's not much of a differentiation in this weird Pornhub landscape between like people who are just artistically showing off who they are and the people who are sexualizing it. And it kind of like is in this weird muddy watered situation. And I get it, you gotta get the bag, but why? Why target communities that you don't really know much about? You can just present who you are and not have to try and take somebody else's subculture that has a lot of depth and meaning and it's a safe space for a lot of people and turn it into it's so muddy, because I like you guys, I've seen like both sides of the argument, and that's I kind of lie on the just why. You don't have to do that. You know? I don't know if any of that made sense.
It made sense, yeah.
It did, yeah, I followed that.
Matt, what do you think?
I was thinking about something that Beezy said. When somebody says, okay, see, when you act like this, you being sex workers, when you act like this is the reason why men attack so-and-so. And I like that Beezy stood up to that, because I'm going to also. It's so easy to look at targets and victims of predatory behavior and say, what is it about you that causes something like this to happen? When in reality, and this isn't just true about Goth or what we're discussing, I want to just step out of that for a minute for the broader idea that when there are predatory and abusive men, I'm going to use the word men in this context, of course,
Right.
who do behave this way, it is because of an attribute about them that makes them do that, not an attribute of the person that they are harming.
Right.
I do see that the point that someone may have been trying to make, which is that there is a danger in the fetishization of Goth, because it does teach non-Goth people who may have selfish interests. It teaches them that this is something that they can expect from Goths. It teaches them that Goth women want to be gazed upon and exist for wish fulfillment, and are excited by being sexualized. And when non-Goths are taught that these are Goth expectations, these are Goth traits, then it can condition certain behaviors that can be harmful to Goths. Imagine a young teenage Goth who is trying this out, just coming into it, and what she has to face as a result of all of these unfair pressures, all of these things that she has to defend against now, because of non-Goths presenting non-Goth values as Goth. And now this young Goth who's trying to get it right has to defend herself against it, and it's not her burden to bear. I did some research. I was looking this up, like Goth and gender. And here's one that I found that kind of captures this. It was a study called, check out the title of this, guys, The Style Terrorism of Susie Sue, Femininity, Urban Aesthetics, and BDSM Fashion. And this is an outsider trying to do a study, and they came so close, y'all. They almost got it right. They were talking about how Susie, just as an example, is providing a case for emancipation and sexual liberty and self-expression of gender without being assigned to one bipolar gender role or another. And they got it so close when they pointed out all of those strengths about her example. And then they come up with this. They say, however, the fact that she engaged in some imagery that's drawn from BDSM culture and sexualized culture means that she is still exhibiting heteronormativity and that can align women as objects of visual pleasure. Like, you almost had it. You almost had it. And then you completely flew it. Yeah.
Right there.
They tried.
Yeah, they tried. And then they got lazy and fell back onto, well, if some people think it's hot, then that means it's heteronormative BDSM style terrorism. Like,
interesting.
Yeah.
Everything that Susie tried to explode, and you studied her and then missed it.
Yeah, right.
Sounds like they got bored at the end of the paper and just wanted to wrap it up.
Right.
It sounds like they've never read the words to the song Red Light and considered what Susie was talking about.
Exactly.
Let me try and stumble through a point if I have one here, because I'm in agreement about, I wouldn't slut shame. I wouldn't blame sex workers. I agree that, people who have a platform, there is an aspect of that where maybe there's a place to critique, like potentially some internalized misogyny, because of course women have internalized misogyny, or pointing at the systems that put people in these situations in the first place. I came up with a kind of analogy to this that maybe makes sense, maybe it doesn't. I'll try and you tell me if it does or not. But I was thinking about this in terms of Satanism, because we understand that when Goths are called Satanists, it's a misnomer. It's a label that gets placed onto us, or anything that's dark and strange by outsiders by way of a framework of conservatism. And we know goth isn't satanic, but we don't go around telling other goths, hey, you need to tone down anything that might give off the vibe of Satanism. Or tell Satanists that, hey, you're ruining it for the rest of us because of these things, and you need to get out of the scene because we have all these outsiders calling us Satanists. And I definitely have issues with certain strains of Satanism or certain philosophical views of Satanism or the behaviors of specific Satanists or Satanist organizations. There's been stuff that's come out about like, oh, these people are racists. And even though they say like they stand for these values or whatever. But, you know, I sort of in these cases understand that no one Satanist is identical, and the harm done to the goth community isn't necessarily because of the bad actors that are Satanists. It's more because of the long history of control that political conservatism and religious conservatism have had to create that framework, that perspective on this thing. And it sort of goes into... I go to a similar place about the porn category because I know people online have talked about that. Trey, you brought it up. And, you know, I'm a genderqueer person and I consider myself under the trans umbrella. And trans has always been a porn category. And it's historically been immensely harmful in the way that trans people are talked about and portrayed and used in those situations. But there are also... trans-owned and run porn sites that sort of take the narrative into their own hands and make porn that they find affirming and enjoyable and that they want to watch. So like people watch porn. Anything you can think of has been turned into a porn category. Librarians are a porn category, which is another like, you know, women, minority, like being fetishized as a thing. So to me, I guess the issue I try and point at is more the broader systemic issues that drive men to abuse and objectify women, or women to have to objectify themselves to survive. And that's kind of my thought on that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Which I guess I could ask the follow-up question to that then being like, what trends or political systems or cultural systems do you think are driving this trend of sexualizing goth women, if there are any that you can point to?
Capitalism.
Yeah.
It's a market.
Capitalism.
I mean, that's kind of the whole thing with me. Why I think there's this kind of tension in everybody's feelings towards this. Oh, they're objectifying goth, and oh, they're sex workers, and I want to condemn one thing but don't want to condemn them both. And why that's hard to thread that particular needle is because the market has decided that our aesthetic has value in a sexualized sense. And because of that, there's now a market for that niche in porn, in sex work, in sexualized YouTube videos and TikToks and whatever. And there are plenty of people who their only livelihood is whatever content, whatever they can get from their TikToks, from their OnlyFans, from, you know, live shows, from, you know, whatever they're doing, whether it's working in the official porn industry or the more DIY amateur porn industry that's risen up in the internet these days. And because there's this market and people want to be able to afford to eat and a roof over their head, they will look at, well, okay, what's popular in the market right now? What's getting people to click? What's getting people to buy? And right now, one of the big market niches is this goth aesthetic. Whether we love it, hate it, whether, you know, it doesn't necessarily matter to somebody who is needing to make that money, whether it's hurting another person.
Right.
Right.
I can't say that.
Mhm.
I can't say that with that absolute sense. They
Right.
probably do care, but sometimes you make compromises with what you feel is the right thing, the thing you should do when you feel like you're being forced into it by forces that are outside your control. You need to survive.
Right.
And you might try to minimize, but you still may do this thing that does cause objectification.
Less the
Causes
threat of
the
having
wrong
your
word as
material
well.
needs
Causes the wrong
removed.
word as
Yeah.
well. To
Yeah,
point
yeah.
out what everybody else has said, but Beezy said first, it's not the women who do this who are the ones who are doing the abuse. They may
Yeah.
be creating or helping engender an environment that furthers that abuse, but it is still the abuser is the abuser. Full stop.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
the person who is objectifying the other person, whether it's man or woman or whatever. If the person who's doing the objectification of the other person outside of the barriers of consent is the person who is ultimately at fault.
Right.
Yeah.
But there is also always these questions about, what's creating this environment, what's furthering the market. And that's where it becomes just really hard to condemn the environment that's being created and not condemning a person who is simply trying to make a living, and they know that that is a way that they can reliably and repeatedly make an income.
Right.
Well said.
It's something that I think about a lot too, because I am a straight cisgender guy, but I'm also the father of a queer, non-binary goth son. There are times that I actually wonder if cis het men in the goth community are the minority, and I would be fine if that were the case. I'm not sure of it. I don't have statistics, but what I do know is that goth as a community, or I like to use the word tribe, that we are very gender diverse, very non-normative in whatever word you want to use, very non-heteronormative, very non-gender normative. Don't be goth if you're not cool with that. Like that is part of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
so, well, hey, I like Sisters of Mercy, but I'm not cool with all this stuff. Oh, really? I like that band that talked about lipstick on my cigarette and a black dress looking like mine? Okay.
Right.
Mhm.
You don't like
I
you
love
don't want
that song.
Peter Murphy hanging on Daniel Ash
Okay.
when they sing the song Crowds and teasing each other? Okay. Like, where are you going to draw that line then?
Yeah.
Because this is part of our
Right.
community. And in a lot of ways, goth has been a woman-led community.
Yeah.
And I like that. I support it. I think goth, part of its politics is feminist. The personal is political, and I do see a lot of feminism in goth, and those are things that are part of our community that belong there. And so I'm glad that you've brought that up, and it's something that we need to be attuned to. One example: when people use the word goth chick, that's a tell.
Yeah. Oh, big time.
You know who doesn't call goth women chicks? Goth men.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
100%. With the whole, capitalism and patriarchy thing that kind of leads to the fetishization of goth, I want to make a point that a lot of the people that do fetishize goths are conservative men. And I don't know I don't know if you guys seen the goth girl spit yet.
Yeah,
Yes.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah. It's ironic because I looked at the guy who created it. He is literally just this conservative man, like army dude, selling it and making money. Like he's monetizing and
He's a bro.
yeah. Yeah. So it's just another thing that I've noticed is it's usually not the people within the community. It's always the people outward.
Yeah.
I wish
Well,
it
and
was
that's-
always, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
not
where
always, but a lot of the time.
yes.
that's where I wanted to go next as well, because there is we've been talking sort of about the outsider more or less misunderstanding and objectifying of goth.
Right.
And I wanted to turn that gaze inward for a second, because there is, I know we've mentioned on the show before, there's what I think is an outdated, but there's a book from Dunja Brill called, I don't remember what it's called now, but it's basically the perspective of the early 2000s and the ways that she perceived sexism to be recreated within the goth community, while simultaneously presenting itself as sort of a feminist liberation group. So that's the early 2000s. But I wanted, from your perspectives, to sort of hear if you have found there to be issues internally in terms of sexism, so harmful beauty standards that we perpetuate on ourselves, platforming abusers, like any of these issues that we would expect maybe wouldn't be there.
Real quick, I think the book is Goth Culture, Gender, Sexuality, and Style.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the one.
I have it in my hand right now. I had to look at
nice.
my bookshelf.
You're like, wait, I know.
Dunja Brill.
Yeah, my bookshelf doesn't exist anymore, so I have to
no.
use my memory, and my memory is garbage. So
Yeah.
but yeah, Beezy, what have you run into, if anything?
There are a few within that I've noticed, and maybe I'm understanding the question wrong, but there's this specific stereotype that I often see within the goth culture, subculture, that you, at least as of late, that you have to be, skinny, white,
Yep.
have to do the trad goth look, whatever, like that newfound traditional goth look. And you'll
The one
see
that's
a lot
called
of
trad
videos.
goth but doesn't look anything like trad goths.
Yeah. And you'll see videos of like just clips of them showing like goths, but it's just completely white goths, and there's like no people of color, or it's just like, I feel like there is this harmful stereotype of like, oh, goth has to be white.
Yeah.
Kat, follow-up thoughts on that, or sexism in the goth scene?
All right. So here's where I start with that. I've actually had to. I think it was a couple of years ago, I was actually fighting this exact thing, where I had a lot of like trolls come to my page on my Instagram, calling me a monkey, saying I look ugly, goth is for white people, it's not for black people, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
So I actually bought a shirt to clap back that was like, "So goth, I was born black."
Yeah, hell yeah.
Nice.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So I wore that, and I've done a lot of, not necessarily soul searching, but a lot of thinking on this topic. And Beezy, everything that you said is exactly right. A lot of the expectations are skinny, white, long black hair. Don't even dare have blonde hair. How dare you? Like, or God forbid you wear color on your face.
Right.
Not allowed. Like if you try to even dip into a new wave style, which is horrible. Yeah. Because the thing is that goth was always, it was never that specified in terms of like you can only be this. It was always so come as you are. And that's what I love about it. And I mean, I'll even say, even curly hair, like I have natural hair, and I know there's a lot of people who don't see me as goth because my hair is not straight and teased out. Yeah, like I have to. I've always felt like I've had to make my hairstyles so elaborate to where people can actually see, oh, you are goth. You just don't want to straighten your hair. But oh, I see it now, because I always have to put my hair in some kind of like mohawk, which I don't mind. But sometimes I'm like, what if I just want to wear my hair in an afro? People will still consider me less goth for that.
Yeah.
And I've always felt like as a black person, I've always had to increase my knowledge and level up my fashion. I have to do it twice as much than like my white counterparts, so that I can actually be taken seriously.
Of course, that's
Right.
everything in society, not
That's-
just being goth.
Right.
Yeah,
That is true.
Exactly. I agree. And I'll be honest with you, I found it quite exhausting because it's
Mhm.
like I can't just simply exist here
Yeah.
with my natural curly hair and my bonnet and whatever because
Mhm.
I'm going to be considered less goth if I don't have everything. Now, you know, as I've like grown older, I've just grown into the goth scene, so I naturally just like all things that are bats, coffins, and all the posters and everything. But
Mhm.
growing up, I always found it kind of exhausting how much I had to like live up to this stereotype that I need to be like pale, I need to be slender. I'm not
Yeah.
slender. I'm on the bigger side.
Right.
And I mean, it just hurts. It's heartbreaking because I thought we left the regular society
Mhm.
with all those standards. Why the hell are we bringing them back in?
Right.
Yeah, I thought
No.
we were a group because we
Exactly.
didn't want people to act like this.
Yeah.
No, we didn't. Like, you're so right. So it infuriates me because it's like,
Me too.
where did these standards come from? I thought we left that back there.
Yeah.
Like, golf has always been come as you are, and that holds true to me to this day, forever and always. Just come as you are. I've
Yeah.
actually, yeah, I've written about that because I just know that a lot of baby bats of color just they feel kind of anxious about it. They feel kind of weary. I've actually had DMs of them coming to me just like, how can I be goth? Like, what can I do to look more goth? I'm like, you look as
Yeah.
you look. That's it. That's enough.
It drives me crazy because it's hard enough to be a kid and be weird. You know,
Mhm.
Right.
you don't want to be anxious going to the goth club because you're worried that people won't think you're goth enough. You want to go because it's a relief, because it's a place where you can actually feel safe and like comfortable.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
exactly.
Thank you. Like, I have imposter syndrome sometimes. Like, if I'm not in my full regalia when I run into another goth at the store.
Mm,
oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Hey.
I feel that.
Yeah, Kat, I was in one of the many goth communities on Reddit recently, and somebody posted, "What are we doing to keep our skin pale this summer?" And I wrote and said,
No.
"We are not assuming that all goths are white." And
Right.
I got banned. Got banned immediately. They called that
Oh
hate
my
speech.
god.
Yeah.
That's insane.
We are not
No,
assuming
no.
that all goths are white. So,
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
surprised. Tomato,
No.
tomato on that community. It's embarrassing. I am so sorry that happened. I actually had a
Oh,
I had
no,
a
I
friend.
lied.
I had
Yeah.
a friend who I was talking to. This was a couple of years ago, but he's a black goth who went to the club. He had like his whole ensemble on, including like white face paint, trad makeup.
Mhm.
And this girl was really interested. So they went home together. He took the makeup off and she was like, "Oh, you're black?" And she was so weird
What?
about it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's
my
insane.
Oh.
so weird about it. The rest of the time didn't really want to talk to him, all of that. Racist goths are alive and well, people. They have
Oh, yeah.
not gone
Yeah.
away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're beginning to even self-identify now out in the open.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're not ashamed. It's interesting. Ugh, it drives me insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
Goth is not racist, and they're like, well, goth is whatever I want it to be. It's a state of mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not a racist state of mind.
Oh, we're gonna
Don't
yeah.
get me started.
We're gonna get to that. Let me tell you.
Oh, good. Here we go.
Let me tell you.
Since we're also already in this topic of race and whatnot, so Kat, I'm going to kind of ask you specifically because I'm looking for lived experience a little bit. But I'm going to be merging the current idea of the aesthetic of goth with the previous sexualization thing.
Okay.
So I'm looking at intersectionality here, and historically, for hundreds of years, even before goth was sexualized, black female bodies, very, very sexualized.
Oh yeah.
They were
Right.
objectified, sexualized for hundreds of years. With this rise now, since you are both black and into the goth aesthetic, have you found that, or do you feel that you're being, the sexualization is being amplified by the goth aesthetic? Or do they balance each other out, or do they maybe hit different aesthetics, or what do you think about that? How is that intersectionality working or not working
So,
for you?
so in my experience, it's been a couple of years now. I'm not on social media as much as I used to be,
Hmm.
but I do remember my DMs would get filled up with people who had like both a goth kink and a black kink.
Okay.
So
Mm.
you would have my favorite ones are uh hello my mistress of the night or mistress of darkness, but they're like referring to my skin color.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is so strange. I would say they're probably both married.
Okay.
Very
So you
much
think
so
they
they
kind
are
of
both.
amplify each other these days?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, like I said, it's been a few years. I don't really check my messages as much,
Hmm.
especially like on Facebook, they have it all separated and whatnot. But I used to get a lot of messages like that. My dark queen, again, referring to my skin color, my
Yeah.
ebony queen. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Ebony is going to be the tell. That's definitely going to be the tell there.
Yeah.
Right.
But they are very married. I mean, it's kind of weird too because then you get like some of those people who make fun of the way that you look, but it's because
Hmm.
they're just like, well, I don't think I got a shot, so let me just make fun of them.
Oh,
Yeah. I
And
mean, they could be
then
negging too, or
that's a
trying
pickup artist
that
thing.
Literally.
Yeah.
technique.
they're literally nagging. You're so right.
Yeah.
And it's just you can't help but to kind of look at those messages and be like, ew, this
Hmm.
is so disgusting. Get a life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for that perspective.
No problem, yeah.
I want to point a different version of this question at each of you. I mentioned sort of internalized sexism earlier. It had me thinking about self-objectification, which is when women internalize this evaluation of their self-worth through the lens of the attractiveness of their physical appearance to men. And Beezy, I want to come to you first because you talked about the way that this behavior manifested in you when you were young in a previous video. Right. So can you kind of share with us like how that socialization in patriarchal society led you to seeking out that kind of male validation?
Yeah. So for context, like I said before, I grew up Mormon in Utah.
Oh
Yay. Yeah.
I've been to Utah twice. It's a living nightmare. It's insane.
I left as soon as I could. I was like, goodbye.
You have to watch SLC Punk, though. You need to watch SLC Punk.
Yeah, I still haven't seen that.
It's good.
Shoot, where was I?
Sorry.
No, you're okay. You're good. I'm just my brain is like, what? Okay. At the root of Mormonism, from a very young age, I was taught that sex is bad.
Mm-hmm.
That if you have sex before marriage, you're basically destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
You have to wear clothing that covers your shoulders, your ankles, whatever it may be. It's always your fault that the men are sexualizing you. And if you grow up and you get married and you aren't pleasing your husband enough, that's your fault and you're not allowed to divorce him. At least it's frowned upon.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, my mom took us out pretty young and we went to Christianity, which, is like
famously better for women.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I mean, it's maybe a step, but it's
like
not
a
very
step.
far.
Yeah.
Not very far.
Exactly. And I went to a private school, so I had to wear clothes that polios, whatever. Khakis.
Oh, I felt you on that one. I went to Catholic school growing up in New York.
So you understand.
Horrible.
Horrible. I've always had these, even to this day, even though I was taken out young, I just feel like because I grew up in Utah and how shameful sexual empowerment is. And to this day, I'm still like, I feel like, like, is this too much? Am I weird? Like, and my boyfriend, he'd be like, no, you're you're fine. It's not too much. And it's interesting how it affected me growing up, because the second that it's like weird, because they like, it's your fault that you're getting sexualized, but also it's your only great quality. Right. So it's like this really weird, confusing dynamic of okay, it's my fault, but also it's my only redeeming quality. So my first sexual harassment was when I was 13. I was dressed goth because I had just went to public school. And he told me that men are gonna come up and grab me one day and that my body's beautiful, yada yada. And he wasn't wrong. Like, throughout the rest of my life, I experienced that, and I went into modeling and I tried to do my own sexual empowerment, but it still led towards the male gaze and not for myself.
Yeah.
So it was more like I'm trying to appease the men because I felt like that was my only way of actually succeeding in life. So it took me a long time to actually decenter men.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I've worked, probably after I had my children, that's when I kind of started to realize and, decenter men. And it does affect you, like, lifelong. Like this internal misogyny and this patriarchy and how men are supposed to be on, in control. And it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Beezy, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is it kind of like being like you were taught your sexual allure is the only thing you have to offer? It's the only thing of value you have. Now, be ashamed of it like you're supposed to?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
The only thing you've got that's any good is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. How are you supposed to navigate that?
Oh man, it's been a mind trip. I think when I first tried to do my own sexual empowerment, like I said, it was kind of like, I think I started off just being, more male centered. I went into modeling, and of course the men in Utah, their photography is it's very Playboy style. And those were like the only photographers that wanted to work with me, and I was young and naive. I didn't really know what I was doing, and all those photos are just very Playboy. And I look back at it and I'm like, oh, I just want to go and hug her. Because it's just I just didn't know any better. And that's what I thought I was, that's what I thought I was doing. I thought I was doing sexual empowerment of my own,
That's got to be so confusing. Like,
yeah,
to even find out what empowerment is, when you're taught you have one good thing and it's a bad thing.
Yeah, it's
like that's my male privilege, but I can't imagine how that was for you. And I'm aware of it. I'm self-aware enough to realize that.
Right. It's a lot of deconstructing, a lot of rewiring. Even when I first went, like way back, I remember making a comment about sex work, and I didn't realize how much internal misogyny I had in it. And I was like, oh, wait. Like, I appreciate the girl who, her name's Alessandra. She reached out to me and she's like, and I was like, you know what? You're so right. I didn't even realize that I made a comment like with my internalized misogyny. So I still catch myself to this day because of how I was raised. With the Mormonism and all that stuff. So
I see echoes of that sometimes. Like, I have a girlfriend who is very proudly feminist. She's named herself after a goddess of war. But when she does nice things for me, my own feminism kicks in and I get uncomfortable. Like, no, and I say all the time, you don't exist to serve me. Like, you don't have to do this. And so that happens. Those echoes happen with me too. Or even if I say that I agree with somebody who is a woman or somebody who is just not male at all, then I have been made fun of before as a simp. Which
that's the thing nowadays.
Like
simps, the cucks, all that.
Angela Benedict, who is a goth commentator who I really like, said something that I thought was insightful, and I said so, and immediately got piled on by men that you must just be a simp. They thought that was an insult against me, but the actual insult is a woman's intuition or insight or wisdom can't possibly be of worth on its own merit.
Right.
If you affirm it, it must mean that you have a different self-serving motive. It can't be genuine respect.
Yeah.
Yep. And I can't imagine how, like Beezy, the things that you were saying, like how you would even find your way free of that. And I commend you that you have, because I don't know if I could.
Yeah. It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kat, let me ask you a similar but different question, because you, like me, are into the gender fuckery. Just from the perspective of what it's like to go through the world and female presenting in any way, and sort of media constantly reducing your worth to the way your body looks, being under the potential threat of physical violence. How does that influence the way that you form your sense of self and like the way that you act around others and everything like that?
Well, I kind of had to realize, even like as recent as maybe earlier this year, that I am here for me. I'm not here for you. I'm not here for what you perceive me as, because even if I were to tell you, and even if I were to explain it, you don't understand it. It's like, you know what? My head's gonna spin trying to get you to understand me as me for who I am. So I've always kind of looked at stuff like this, and being like, me being Black as well, like people looking at me, I'm like, you're gonna think a thing, and I can't really change that. But what I can do is keep my peace and live my life, and not necessarily like not worry, because I'm still gonna be worried, but realize that when you stand your ground, you live your truth and you live who you are, people get really annoyed by that. And I always felt like when you're not doing the thing that they want you to do, they get really pissed off.
Yeah.
It's like they try even harder to try and get you to let you see how they see you.
Yeah.
Right.
And I used to be, I'm like a big people pleaser kind of person, right? And when I was younger, it was a lot worse, right? And there was a time where I did appeal to the male gaze as well. I tried to, try and be more like seductive and whatnot. But as I've gotten older, I think maybe when I was like 22 or 23, I was like, honestly, fuck all of that. I'm just gonna be me. And I mean, obviously, like it didn't happen overnight, but I had to make a choice. I had to make that like stance, like right there. Like, I know this doesn't make me comfortable. You grow up, just like Beezy, trying to be modest, but not really, or be modest until you find a husband, that kind of thing. And I don't know. I'm just kind of looking at it like, no. You know what? Just no.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. That doesn't appeal to me. And why am I trying to do this for you?
Yeah.
Who are you? Who is this? You're not me. So I don't care what you think. And I happily skip along, and they're sat there angry. And I'm like, you can stay angry. I'm not going to bother with you. I mean, like I said, that is so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
But it takes little by little, like stop caring and dressing like how you want. And even if somebody comes up to you and bothers you, it's like, eh. Most of the time, like not even most, all the time they're ugly anyway. So it's like, yeah. like,
Always.
your opinion matters even less to me. And I know that sounds crude, but I don't know. It's like you're ugly, so I don't care. And I'm not talking about appearance. It's just like your whole vibe. The fact that you even came up to
Right.
me is
Your
like a red
energy.
flag. Right. It's like ugly energy. So I'm like, ew, you're ugly. You don't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is so crude, but I have had to boil down my philosophy to something digestible so that I don't make my head spin
Yeah.
constantly, being like, oh, I'm trying not to appeal to. It's just like, no, they're ugly. They're ugly.
Yeah. They're not worth it. They're not worth it.
They're not worth it. It's not.
I think
They're
that's
not worth
fair.
it.
Yep.
That's how I see it. I know, like I said, it's quite crude, but it works for me.
No, I appreciate that. It makes sense. Yeah, you have to have something practical. You can't.
Right.
It's difficult to be very rigid and academic and heady in everyday life. You have to have something that you can point in the direction of where your values are. Right, Matt. Sort of along this line, I wanted to ask, because you mentioned your background is in working with gender-based violence and exploitation. So, what do you see that these sexist stereotypes create? What is the harm perpetuated in the world against women emotionally and physically through these expectations?
Well, let me step back first and address it like generally societally and not just specifically in Goth.
Yeah.
When I've worked with survivors of gender-based violence, like domestic and sexual assault and sexual violence, generally I frame it as men's violence against women, because generally that is the experience. One of the things that I've learned talking with survivors is that people who are abusive, people who are violent, aren't that way because they have an anger management problem or something like that. Generally, they're experts at managing their anger. Like when they're in front of other people where it would count, they can control themselves perfectly. What you find is that they tend to have like beliefs and values. They have ideas, they have philosophies that entitle them to behave this way. They have the belief system that I want this from you. You owe this to me. I'm entitled to it. If you don't provide it to me, then it's your fault if I react to you in this way. So that's generally like the mindset of an abuser. When we think about this in terms of like specifically now being Goth, I found some research that had some of the same ideas. There's a book that I found called Femicidal Fears, Narratives of the Female Goth Experience. And it talked a lot about that women in the Goth community were saying to the researchers that when we are among our safe people, our safe subculture, then we are able to kind of unfurl. We're able to explore and share ourselves. We're able to open up with more vulnerability because it will be received safely. But when we are around people who don't share those values and don't affirm those rights of ours, then we have to withdraw inward. We have to pull inward. We become defensive and also at times hostile as a way to ward off those dangers. And those differences switch on or off based on which side of the Goth to non-Goth boundary someone is on. So when you have, I'm just going to be bold, and I'm just going to call it out. When you have men who are conditioned by false images of Goth women, and then they try to interact with Goth women through that misguided, those misguided beliefs, those misguided self-centered ideas, then it's kind of like what I was saying earlier, that a lot of Goth women have described having to defend against that. And I'm aware of the irony of me explaining that. Like, I'm not trying to mansplain Goth. these are things that I'm sharing because I have listened to those who have shared those things with me. So I want to say that so that I'm not mansplaining other people's experiences. I'm very careful about doing that. But when they have explained those things to me, that's something they have in common, is that fear of what if the people outside of our group that we're interacting with have been misled by false ideas of what we are. And then they act on those ideas thinking that those ideas are accurate. They're the right ways to interact with us when they're not. What if they have the ideas that every goth is into kink? Every goth is into serving others. Every goth is to providing like aesthetic pleasure for those who are gazing at us. And that's not that it is. But when outsiders are conditioned that way, then yeah, I do see the risks in that. And that's where I see that it is our job as goths, of every gender. It's not non-male goths' duty to do this on their own. It is all of our work together to help redirect those ideas, to help correct those misunderstandings, to help ensure the safety of others around us in our community, even if they are not us. I can understand the perspective of a non-male goth. That's why I was asking Kat and Beezy for more insight into their experiences. That doesn't mean that because I don't understand their lives, that it's not my job to be responsive to them. It's not my job to just say, oh, well, I'm on the right side of this issue, so I can wipe my hands now and I've done my part.
Yeah.
Right.
It is our collective work together of every gender expression, every sexual orientation, all of these things, to work collectively for the protection, the safety, and the freedom of expression of all of us in our culture. That's kind of something I really wanted to say.
Yeah.
Well said. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
I try so hard. I don't want to say something wrong.
No.
So good. Very insightful.
I have to tip my hat to you mentioning a book about goth that I've never heard of before. I didn't think that was possible. I thought I had every single one.
I posted a link to it in the chat.
Yeah, I looked it up already too. Yeah.
I can't vouch for all of it because I haven't read all of it.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing what some of the early precepts are that I've been able to take from it.
No, that's great because I have a extremely extensive library of goth books, and that doesn't happen very often. You're probably the first person to do that, so congratulations. Anyway, that's completely irrelevant to me.
Danny, I did find some sources, and I was like, I want to know if this is good or not. So I literally would Google whether you had addressed this on Cemetery. And I found some that you had given affirmation to, and some of these. So your program has already helped me separate good from bad research.
Well, that's very kind.
Right.
No, the tip of the hat's back to you.
All right. Well, I'm not good with compliments, so let's get back to politics. Everybody loves politics. Okay. All right. So Jake Monroe.
Oh gosh. Yes.
There's some whiplash.
He's, we're going between what everybody's talking about in these terms, and I think these two topics dovetail together. And Jake Monroe is at the head of the spear of this like conservative push to get into goth culture. I have some experience with that. My first community of goths was actually a conservative Christian group. That's a whole other, we did a whole episode on that, but very strange. But I've seen over the years, plenty of people try to fit conservative politics or libertarian politics, or I guess even justify like goth being apolitical, or just like on the nose far right agenda into the goth scene to try and marry those two things. And this was brought up earlier about the differentiation of goths through their political ideologies, opinions. and people are definitely fighting back and trying to remove those people from our spaces. So I think I wanted to start this portion of the episode by asking why conservatives are so obsessed with goth in the first place. Like they are so butthurt anytime someone tells them they aren't goth. They desperately want to be considered goth. Why is that? Why do you think they're so drawn to goth culture?
I ask myself that a lot. And it's so interesting to see, honestly, that they just want to be us so bad. I feel like conservatives, they want what they can't have. Like in general, like I just feel like, and then, they try to make all these rules of, with the LGBTQ laws, not rules, laws. And they try to get in our way, but then once we set a boundary, set a rule, I put rule in quotation, they get angry. They don't like being told what they can and can't do, even though they love to tell people what they can and can't do.
Yeah.
And I do think they like the fact that we are different. I think that draws them to us, but I also think that they want to change us. It's a weird, I don't know if I'm explaining this correct, but it's just a weird phenomenon at this point. I don't know. Someone like Jake Monroe, I really think he's just a grifter.
Yeah, oh for sure.
Yeah.
But those conservative goths, they love him.
Yeah.
Or conservative goth quotations.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring up some of the arguments, if you can call them that I will hear from conservative goths about why they think goth culture supports their membership, essentially. So maybe Kat, I can come to you, and then Matt. But one of the big ones I hear is that goth is meant to be a purely nonconformist culture. I think you brought this up earlier, Trey. Just pure self-expression. And so therefore you can't tell me what my politics are, should or shouldn't be.
Sure. I guess technically I can't tell you what to do, but it's like, why are you here? I just think you're jealous. I think you're jealous of the fact that like a lot of goths and just like people who even like seek a subcultural alternative lifestyle want to break free of the burdenous expectations that society puts on all of us. And I've always felt like they just don't like it. They don't like that we are just like, no, we reject that. And I feel like conservative goths can't commit is their problem. Whatever they have on the line, whether it's like family or status or whatever, it's like they can't fully commit to actually wanting to break free from it all, if that makes sense. And that's how I've always like seen it, because I've always kind of tilted my head at how can you be conservative and alternative?
Right.
You know?
That's sort of along the same lines what I mentioned previously, is that on a previous episode, is that we are all suffering effects of capitalism, right? If you're a white man, you are more privileged, but you do suffer. The issue is the white men also realize that the system benefits them. And so when they feel that, maybe it's the loneliness thing, maybe it's they feel the world changing around them, they direct that anger rather than at the system that's causing the issue. They direct it at people lower on the pecking order, right? And so that's kind of what class consciousness is about, is saying like, look, these hierarchies of the working class where you're like, oh, I'm better than this person, so I get to piss on this person, and this person is a little bit higher up than me and they get to piss on me. It's like we're all taking the short shrift from the the people that have all the money and the power, and that's where we should be pointing it towards. And unfortunately, men make their problems everyone else's problems. So. Matt, you brought up one of my favorite quotes about the personal is political.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this? One of the other ones I come up against often is the idea that conservatism is the new punk rock, and they're the ones that are really doing the rebellion.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about trying to fit the square peg into the triangle hole kind of thing?
Well, I think they just believe their own mythology.
Yeah.
There's this conservative mythology that we are about, just grit, individuality. You make it on your own strength. You don't rely on government. That kind of thing. It's that kind of like frontier bullshit that I've got my gun, I've got my grit, I've got my muscle, and that's it. I'm a real man that way. And that's kind of the mythology of conservatism. To this day, they can have the most pampered, thin-skinned, beat, like easily hurt, whiny, in office, but they will still Photoshop it and as muscle-bound and holding, like a Rambo type assault rifle. That's their mythology. They will create a reality to make sure it supports that mythology. And so they can create a false idea of what punk is, because, punk is anti-establishment. Well, what does that mean? That means we oppose the government, and that sounds like Ronald Reagan to me. So they connect, like you said, trying to push a peg through the wrong shaped hole. They try to connect these things, convinced that there is a continuous line between conservative politics and anarchism or punk or non-conformity. And so I think that's kind of where a lot of that starts off. Now, why they're attracted to goth, somebody earlier mentioned that it's a grift. It's kind of like, are you familiar with pine beetles?
No.
Where pine beetles are an infestation species that they'll find like a pristine forest, they'll invade it, they'll consume it and strip it for all the resources that they can. Then when it's a husk, they find the next pristine forest from that. That is what I think goth is to them. I think it's their new pristine forest. I think that they're stripping it for resources, for for aesthetics, for newness, for novelty, for access to something that is chic and trendy and cool right now. Zeitgeist, I'll call it. And when they've stripped it down to its husk, they'll move on to the next. They think that buying is rebellion. And so that's what I think is going on. That's why I think that they won't let anyone tell them about this. Like whenever someone says you're gatekeeping, it's usually a person who's complaining that we won't accept their bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if you won't accept whatever crap I'm trying to bring into the culture, that's usually the person who complains about gatekeeping.
Right.
Yep.
Trey, you want to throw something in there?
I got a lot of things.
I'm sure you do. Yeah. I'll refill my whiskey while you regale.
So, looking at the sort of rise of the conservative goth, I think part of that is, or a lot of it is sort of coming into, so modern conservatism has sort of been attempting in an ability to, or in their attempt to, and so far successful attempt, to kind of seize power, specifically in this country, but it's, the rise of the right wing has been happening worldwide over the past decade or so. So it's definitely not a U.S. specific situation. But I think that the conservative movement, not from the ideological standpoint, because they've let go of a lot of the ideological because it's a power grab. And so they're doing kind of what the Christian movement did when they invented Christian as a thing rather than actual individual religious markers, because there's no real Christianity as a specific thing. It's a conglomeration of a bunch of faiths that used to be at each other's throats for most of the history.
Right.
But as a power grab, they've developed this big tent mentality, and conservatism has done the same thing. And they've used as their wedge issue right now woke and idealized politics around those sorts of things, whether it's DEI, whether it's woke, whether it's human rights around immigration and anti-nationalism and stuff like that. That's been their wedge issue. And so what they've been able to do is grab a lot of people who are not in any sense conservative on the whole. They don't follow all the traditional conservative things. They disagree on a lot of stuff. One of the first big groups that they grabbed in were the libertarians, which used to caucus with liberals because it was all about the freedoms and whatnot, freedom of expression and freedom to do what you want, not this conservative ideal of book bannings and these religious fundamentalism. But the libertarians have looked at now the left as doing what they hated the right doing with this forced have to respect everybody, have to respect LGBTQ, have to respect different races, have to respect different nationalities, have to have this globalized world society, and they're against that. So we've got that as one of the big groups that came in, but then you also have splinter groups coming in with incel communities, with edgelord sort of communities, with that sort of comedian space where they want to be able to say the socially unacceptable thing. You've got a lot of stuff like that. A lot of these sort of fringe groups that feel their rights, and a lot of this is focused on men, as we already mentioned. There's this idea of men's liberty, men's freedoms, and a lot of that has been eroded through the movements of feminism. White men are being their colonial privileges have been eroded by this globalization, this idea of things coming from other countries being valued, not made in America, or immigrants coming and taking jobs. So all of these things sort of come together to allow people who are more interested in creating power and gaining power and being powerful, co-opting conservatism to try to bring as many of these groups together to just get a caucus that they can use to develop power. And I think one of the avenues that led into Goth, I already kind of mentioned one, which is the edgelord side of things. But I think the Mansonites are a little bit of part of that too, because that was one of the first rises of Marilyn Manson being that sort of king edgelord, right? Being the person who is really trying to push against the norms of society in the 90s, playing with gender, playing with things like that, but doing so in a very hostile and aggressive way, but not like punk. It was a political-esque, which is why it garnered a lot of attention, because they didn't have to subscribe to the politics of punk, but they could still be pushing against societal norms, be edgy, be, transgressive. And it's this strong desire to be transgressive, to push the norms of society away because people were disenchanted with the way society was going. And with good reason, society has been tumbling down a hill for a while now, and people are struggling and in pain and lashing out and trying to find someone to blame because it's never my fault that things are going wrong. Mm-hmm. So we have all of these things that have been coming together. You've got the rise of feminism. You've got, all this stuff that led to incel culture, all this stuff that led to this sort of edgy edgelord culture within rationalist spaces, anti-religious spaces with Islamophobia, and sort of all this stuff came together to create this big tent, quote unquote, conservatism. And yeah, I feel a lot of that is where this is coming from, because I suspect that if you got down and actually had one of these conservative quote unquote goths sit down and you gave them a list of ideologies that are conservative, I don't think they would agree with all of them. I don't think they'd be straight up conservative, but currently they feel that that is where they're most welcome because they felt so pushed out by the rise of the left and the rise of this, in their mind, forced acceptance of people that they don't want to accept. And because that is so aversive to them, they're willing to join with people who in other times, in other places, they would also be very much against the Christian right, the fundamentalist, religious, all that. They don't really fit with that either, but they feel they have the ability to work with that more conveniently than they can with what they perceive as the left.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, what are we so afraid of then? Beezy, let me ask you this, because like I said, the red-pilled goths desperately want us to stop saying they aren't goth. And, they're throwing these hissy fits online. What is the real world impact that these right-wing ideologies might have on local goth communities or goth in general if we just say, okay, yeah, you guys are part of us now?
I think it's dangerous because when you have a subculture has so much so much diversity with genders and LGBTQ friendly and having the Black community and just all different kinds of goths, and then you let these people in with these hateful ideologies. And you allow them to come to these shows, you allow them to be part of their space. Well, it's not going to be a safe space for the, for all the diversity, the diverse people, the people who are looking for a safe space in the first place.
The outsiders were supposed to be welcoming.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they, like Jake Monroe, I mean, I don't know if you've seen any recent of his content, but he literally said that goth has to be white. Goth is white.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Great.
And
I know I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Nope, he did. He made a whole YouTube video. Yeah, great. I know. And that's where it starts to get dangerous.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you're like, oh, I'm conservative and I like traditional values, let's say like the most least conservative of conservative. It's one thing. But once you start perpetuating just hate and people of color already are so unsafe in this world, and it's really not okay to be just throwing that around. I have a lot of friends in the Black community in some of my group chats, and they're constantly sending me racist comments. And you go look and they're following Jake Monroe, and I'm like, okay. Like the one they're making there, it's harmful. And he's also talking about how being gay is not okay and just all this stuff, and I'm just like, or women are the problem, one of his older videos. I'm like, but the goth community is made up of all these people that you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
So like it just makes me like facepalm because I'm like, it's harmful to the people, and I think that's when it gets dangerous.
Well, if he ever hears this, he's really going to love the part where I said that goth tends to be non-male driven and guided.
Oh, he's going to hate that.
Yeah.
Yep. And he unfortunately does have a big platform of, the incels and all of that. And, when he made a video about me, I definitely got a bunch of his followers just went and like attacked my comment section and messaged me and stuff. So,
I mean, I think this sort of, I would love to hear other thoughts, but I think that sort of answers the question of like, are Gen Z goths centering political ideology and goth identity more than past generations? Because, when I was thinking about this, I was brought up in the 2000s, and I learned from the 90s goths, and for me, it was clothing, music. These are the defining traits that delineate goth from poser. And we'd gatekeep along the lines of like who read Byron or who read Poe or who owned clothing from the most obscure European clothing designer or who knew the most Sisters B-sides or whatever. And I think part of it is that I think people make a little bit more of a case for the internet having easy access to obscure arcane knowledge, because I do think a lot of that sort of deep trivia and deep lore is sort of accrued through long-term membership, but it is easier to find information than it used to be. And I have noticed that younger goths do put more of a focus on politics being a defining trait of what makes goth. And so I just kind of wanted to get some thoughts about if you've also seen that trend, why you think that might be.
As a Gen Zer myself, I have seen that quite a bit. And the unfortunate part about that is that a lot of, at least in my opinion, what goth came up on is getting sidelined. I feel like there are a lot of people in different communities, like queer communities, just for example, who are, I guess, just being, like, the history of them even being in the goth scene is just being ignored. I feel like it's like one of those things where we need to remember the roots. Why are we here? Why did we leave society in the first place? I feel like a lot of people kind of forget that the goth community is not just like one thing. It didn't just come from punk. It came from ska. It came from reggae. It came from Screaming Jay Hawkins. It came from so many different walks of life to bring us all together. So I feel like it's kind of I feel like from maybe, I'm just gonna say like the 80s, 90s, around that time, all the way up to today, it's become like a bottleneck of what we pay attention to in the goth community. I do feel like it has gotten a lot more political, but I don't think for good reasons. I feel like at least some of the stuff that I've seen, this is not everybody. I think most of the stuff I've seen is like actual topics that really need to be talked about, but I've also seen that a lot of people just, I don't know, it's weird right now.
I guess
I'll say it like that.
Yeah, I guess and Matt, I want to come to you in a second, but again, to refer to the personal as political, because I feel like being goth is inherently political anyway, dressing in this way, listening to this music, being genderqueer, I actually, you know what, let me pull this up, because I copied a quote from Angela Davis, who was referencing that. I can't remember the feminist who said the personal is political, but Angela Davis was, thank you. She was expanding on this, and she said, the personal is political means not only that what we experience on a personal level has profound political implications, but that our interior lives, our emotional lives, are very much informed by ideology. We oftentimes do the work of the state in and through our interior lives. What we often assume belongs most intimately to ourselves and to our emotional life has been produced elsewhere and has been recruited to do the work of racism and repression. Yeah, I think the music and the expression, those things are gender is politicized, being queer is politicized, that's being a woman is politicized. Like, there's just not a way of getting around that and living in this sort of apolitical. It takes an immense amount of privilege, of like short-sighted, myopic privilege, to say my sexuality is my own business. And you're ignoring the sort of how embedded and entangled we are with the world around us. If you think that, anyway, sorry. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this, Matt?
My experiences with younger goths is primarily going to be as a result of my relationship with my son and my son's friends. Mm-hmm. So it's limited, but and there may be some selection bias in that because my son is like as trad goth as it gets. Very trad.
Nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Was converted by the Bauhaus song Hope, which just caught him at age 8 and has never let him go. And my first concert at 15 was Peter Murphy. My son's first concert was when he was 15, and it was Peter Murphy.
Hell yeah. Incredible.
All right. So having said that, my assuming that that's representative, and I want to be careful about that assumption, but it's all I have to go by. I would say that yes, if anything, the younger goth generation may be amplifying its political content as part of goth. My son and one of his good friends, who's also one of your good friends, Ryan Flint from Witch Hands, have collaborated in a Goth is Political campaign.
Well,
I've seen that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, they're promoting examples of lyrics and bands and imagery, iconography that supports that. And some of that may have an evangelical, forgive the word, but evangelical purpose. Like, let's remember, let's reaffirm what this is about. Let me be sure and promote this just as a way of reminding ourselves that this isn't a new novelty concept. This is inherent to goth since its punk, reggae, dub, Screamin' Jay Hawkins beginnings. So I would say, if anything, the hope that I have for goth right now is seeing that the younger generation is not only taking that torch, but adding fuel to it, like making sure it's brighter, making sure that to go with the torch analogy, that it illuminates brightly the fact that there is a political element, if not a political core, to a lot of goth. So I am hoping that what I'm seeing here locally in those movements is representative of something more widespread. I think that it is, based on following a lot of goth commentators and goth creators, up and coming goth bands that I really like, that they are reflecting that as well. So I hope that that's the case, but it does give me hope that if anything, that political ember isn't dying, it's expanding.
Yeah. Well, in that context, I just messaged Ryan also just to tell him you were talking about him. But
responsible for me having the love of my life, because he is going to make sure that we met each other. So.
Oh, really? Oh, that's incredible.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. Best goth origin story ever. If I can just
please
go.
Yeah, love to.
At Ryan's Goth Boutique, Ryan and LaShonda, his wife, their Goth Boutique. I went to an art show.
Yeah.
The Arbitrarium. And somebody dressed as Krampus cosplay was like talking with me and joking with me and just interacting with me. And me being an idiot, I did not get what was going on and was about to leave. And Ryan pulls me aside and says, "Matt, before you go, Krampus has been trying to meet you all night." And Krampus asked me out.
Oh,
and when Krampus asks you out, you're a goth, you say yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I did not know what she looked like until our first date.
Oh my gosh.
But this is my goth. I swear, someday I want to get "Go Talk to Krampus" tattooed.
I love that.
Do it.
I told her, she asked, "Is Matt a good guy?" He's like, "Oh yeah, Matt's a great guy, but if you're interested in him, you have to be direct because he does not get this. He will miss the." So Ryan made sure that we connected, and if we hadn't, we've who knows? But I have Ryan and his wife LaShonda to thank so much for that. They are incredibly delightful people. I have nothing but the best things to say about them.
Love that.
And about the band Witch Hands.
I love that.
That's
such a good
precious.
Story.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Include that or edit it as you like. That is
That will be included. That is absolutely going.
Yeah, I love that.
It makes me grin ear to ear to tell you that story.
It's so cute.
I'm grinning right
Precious.
now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
That's amazing.
So, well, what I was going to follow up to that was just in that context of what we were talking about is if we could do kind of a round robin. I know it's cliche. I know everybody hates this question, but if we can go around and say, like, what then do we think, how do we define goth? Just to
Real
put it
quick.
bluntly.
Oh.
Yes, Trey, please.
Before we shift,
Oh boy.
I want to just one quick comment on the why is this a danger question.
Yeah.
I think what it really comes down to is the paradox of tolerance.
Oh yeah.
Right.
If a community is universally tolerant, intolerance will always win because it takes one grain of intolerance to come in, and if that intolerance is tolerated, it spreads and it takes over.
Right.
So you cannot, a tolerant community that wants to value tolerance has to be intolerant of intolerance. And if we don't, and that's why we need to be gatekeepy around some of this stuff, when people are coming in, espousing intolerant views to other people, well, it doesn't even need to be to other people in our community, just in general, because it'll always spread, because intolerance always needs to find an other to be intolerant towards.
Right.
It will just spread and take over. And the big, great example of that historically is skinheads.
Yeah.
It was a very multicultural group in their origin. And then the intolerant people came in. They weren't beaten off enough, and they just took over. And now skinheads are viewed as exclusively white supremacists.
Right.
Yeah.
Trey, do you remember the name of that podcast I always tell people to go listen to about the history of skinheads?
Yes, I do.
That
It
NPR
is-
did.
I mean, I'm now blanking on it, but
NPR.
I have it, and I subscribe to it. It's moral something, I think. Motive.
Okay.
Yeah, the motive, and it's motive season. Where are we?
3, I want to say. 3 or 4.
I'm supposed to my podcast app.
But yeah,
I'm wondering if it's hidden because I listened to it. Let me show
it went
the
through
archive
the with interviews and historical documents, just sort of how skinheads went from an anti-fascist, anti-racist movement to being co-opted by neo-Nazis through very like purposeful. I don't know what you would call purpose.
There was designs.
And,
there were people
design,
who were actively targeting the movement. And it's interviews with people who were skinheads as part of the multicultural one, and also interviews with people who were now reformed modern skinheads who were part of the negative skinheads who infiltrated and took over and are now backed away from that and telling their experience and why they were roped into this hateful group, what the draw was, what brought them into it, and all of that. So it's
talk
very
about
well
the
done,
boots to
and it
suits
is.
thing. It's so well done.
3.
Yeah, everybody should go.
Season 3 of Motive.
Everyone should listen to
very
that.
good.
Yeah, it's good.
Nice.
Good to know.
All right, hot seat. What's goth?
For me, I consider it, like, when I explain it to people, I say it's a lifestyle of just, loving all things spooky and, weird. I don't know how to explain to non-goth people goth music. I just say we like weird music, and we seek justice, and we refuse to be part of societal norms. That's really just to simplify it, really, for me. Obviously the clothes and the makeup and self-expression, a big part of it is the makeup for me. I do a lot of fun different looks, and I read a lot of dark horror books, and I think it's just loving art and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know the best way for me to explain it.
Kat, what about you?
Oh boy. Um, so, all right. My opinion, what I think goth is, it is, I guess, like I've been saying this kind of whole time, it's just this dark expression of like who you are. Now, not just that, obviously. Obviously, we come from music-based subculture. We come from a rejection of shit that makes us sad.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say that for basically any subculture, right? Like
Mm.
you could go into any of them and come out with the same philosophy. But I've always felt like that music and that history of accepting everybody. Like goth is feminist, goth is here for you, goth is come as you are.
Mm-hmm.
Just this very open and accepting community that appreciates things that a lot of people don't like or don't like to talk about.
Right.
You know? Like a lot of people don't like to talk about death. They don't like to talk about the macabre. They find it eerie. And I feel like goth is a place where people who have that similar interest can come together and talk about that, talk about the music, talk about the art, and talk about like the literature that came from it and like the origins. And I know some people kind of want to go like Gothism mindset. Sure, if you ask me, it's like, yeah, you kind of say that about anything. But it is just, to me, it's just rejection. Like, maybe not like strictly goth, but one of my biggest idol, I guess you can say, is Grace Jones. I
Mm.
absolutely love her.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love her. I love her music. Like Nightclubbing, my goodness, that album, wow. I just think that goth is this collection of expression of I am who I am. I'm gonna keep fighting for who I am, and you can't tell me otherwise.
Right.
Obviously not to the extent of like punks, I feel like, but it's just more about I don't accept what you think of me. I like this dark and macabre stuff that you feel is evil or whatever you want to call it, but to me it's comforting because all the
Right.
things that, at least to me, a lot of things that are in the light and like, oh, shiny, bright, and whatever, it's always tainted by people who just make it not feel all that bright. But they're too scared to come to the dark side of life. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, you know what? Nobody's over here. I like it here.
Right.
You can't mess this up for me. You're already scared to come over here. So that's how I see it, at least.
That's good.
Matt, what about you?
Well, boy, I have listened to so many episodes of Cemetery Confession. And I wish that I could just remember something you said and just quote it back to you, and that would be so cool. But I was thinking about
homology
listening to those
hypothesis.
episodes. Boy, if I was ever on that show and they asked me that, I would freeze. You know,
It's a difficult question.
it is.
It is, yeah. It's the bane of my
It's
existence.
much easier. If only you would ask me what isn't goth. That is so much easier.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, there's almost like a filter for what society decides is cool and acceptable and strong and admirable. And that filter has left a lot of us out of that. It has said, you're not cool. You're not mainstream. You're not the core. You're not the ideal. And a lot of us, we felt left behind by that.
Mm-hmm.
What goth has done is it's provided a different filter. And it said, actually, the things that mainstream cool thinks are the criteria that you have failed are actually the criteria that makes you special.
Right.
Those of you who have felt like stooped over, disempowered, left behind, overlooked, uncool, rejected, shamed, traumatized, all of those things that you think leaves you out of something else gives you entry into this. And the cool thing about goth is it doesn't romanticize harm. It doesn't romanticize sorrow and despair. Not at all. Those are things that outsiders get wrong about us.
Mm-hmm.
What it does is it looks at those things and says, instead of idealizing them, I want to turn them into something that now has beauty or art.
Mm-hmm.
About conversion of those things, not idolization of those things, so that the trauma, the aloneness, the self-doubt, those are the things that we start with. Goth gives us a way to transform them through art and creativity and belonging into something that now we can find beauty in. So we find beauty in what transforms us as opposed to idealizing what has harmed us. And that's a distinction that non-goths seldom ever get to see. So in my view of it, the art and the creativity of it are its life's blood. That's why it's music culture to start, because a lot of that's what drew us in. Like, hey, here's music that's not normal. I don't feel normal. Here's music that's not mainstream cool. I'm not mainstream cool. Here's music that expresses diverse gender and androgyny and literacy, and those things resonate with me. So it gives us a way to take what could be considered dark and transform it through our own experiences into something that's beautiful and something that entices us to a greater life rather than diminishing our lives. Those are the things about goth that are important to me.
I like that. I love that.
Thank you. It wasn't simple. I don't know how to give you a sentence for that, but
I've got to stab at it because what you just said dovetails with something that I've been playing with a lot as far as the definition. And I'm going to say that to me, the one sentence would be goth is a celebration of life unfiltered.
Yes.
So,
okay, I like that.
Which is counter to a lot of what people think, because goth is a celebration of death, yada yada yada, whatever, all that stuff. But like you were saying, Matt, life is a wonderful, grand, and incredibly messy adventure of chaos and everything. And you go back to Gothic literature. What Gothic literature was pushing against was the boxing in definition of existence. This idea that we had our enlightenment, we had science, we could categorize and classify all the things, and everything's in its little box, and everything's neat and tidy. And Gothic literature said, you're fucked up. You don't know what you're talking about. You have all these neat little boxes, but you're wrong. You read all Gothic literature, and it's talking about people who arrogantly believe they have life under control, and it's showing them fail at that. And if you go down Cthulhu and Lovecraft, you fail by seeing things you can't explain, that can't be rationalized with the mind, and you go insane. If you go down your Byron, it's about the strictures of society and how we've tried to structure our society in scientific ways and categorize, saying the British stiff upper lip, all that stuff, where you're bottling in emotions, you're being respectable, you're being in the societal order, and like, nope, fuck that all. It's not that way. Things are messy. There are passions, there are angers and joys and lust and all this stuff that happens, and you can't control it. You can't rationalize it.
Yeah.
And goth is a celebration of this fact, an acknowledgement of this fact. It's not about only talking about the dark things, but it's an acknowledgement that the dark things exist. You cannot pretend they're gone. You cannot curate them out of your social media feed and have this idealized life. It is all of this mess. It's all of this passion, all of this that makes life worth living. And the death side of it is simply memento mori. Life has value in its finitude. The fact that it ends.
That I'm literally wearing a memento mori shirt right now.
Beautiful.
I would love to add to that a bit.
Yes, go.
From my own personal experience, ever since I turned to the goth side, that's stupid. Ever since ever since I like got into the subculture, really got into it, I feel like I've loved life more
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
ever
Oh,
since.
100%.
I have
100%.
worn, I have like one of my favorite symbols, if not my favorite symbol, is the Ankh.
Mm-hmm.
I have it tattooed on me. I wear an Ankh earring as like my little staple earring piece. And it always just reminds me how much I really do love and cherish life.
Mm-hmm.
And that we don't have all the time in the world, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like for the time that we have with our loved ones, with everything, it's like we should just cherish this as much as
Right.
possible. I feel like a lot of the societies, like pretty much since the dawn of time, has always been like live as fast as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Hurry, hurry, hurry. Nothing else matters
Right.
besides trying to fit into all these boxes. Like Trey was saying a time ago about trying to fit into these boxes. But the thing about Goth that I love is that those boxes are broken. Like they are shattered, and you were just you. And it forces you to take a step back to look at yourself and say, you know what? I'm just gonna love life. I'm gonna love what I do. I feel free. You know what I mean? Like I feel free. I feel like I don't have to fit anymore because I don't.
Right.
You just said things that I wish that I had words for so long.
Right.
That thing that you said about how I love life more now that I found this.
Yes,
that's so true.
Mm-hmm.
It's
yeah.
For me, it's almost
we're
like
a refuge for the suicidal.
Yeah.
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 It's almost like we're the ones that see beauty in the overlooked, and then when we feel overlooked, we have hope now that we'll have beauty seen in us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we're dark, but we're not cruel. We're bleak.
Exactly.
You know, we want to be Tim Burton, not Tim Tebow. We want to be Gomez and Morticia, not Taylor and Tyler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
When some people, when they meet me and I'm all gothed out and I'm like very smiley and very welcoming and giggly, they're like, that doesn't seem very goth. I'm like, no, we're not always sad faced frowning all the time.
Oh, it throws them for a loop. It throws them for a loop.
It does because it's real.
Like, funny, you don't
exactly.
It's not a fake plastic smile. It's
exactly.
real.
Exactly. Yeah.
What a beautiful place to end this episode, I think.
Oh, right?
I think so too.
Did we finally answer the question?
The question is never answered, Trey.
No.
You know better than that.
I know.
I want
did
Trey's
not.
answer on the future.
Well, let's do this. Let's go around and let everyone know where they can find you online if you would like to point them to a specific place. Beezy, where can we look for you?
You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch under Goth Beezy. I have it all the same, so it's easy to find.
What are you playing on Twitch right now?
I was playing that new Paralives game. It's kind of like Sims, but it's kind of like Sims, but way better and less capitalistic.
Okay.
Because Sims has been doing this. They made a game in 2014. They keep adding expansion packs. We have to pay $40 for each expansion pack. Well, Paralives, you can do so much more. I mean, it's early access, but you can do so much more. And they're never going to charge for DLCs and stuff like that. So
I'm writing that down. Thank you very much.
Yes, check it out because I've already spent, even though it's early access, I've spent so many hours on it because you could make items smaller or bigger and longer, and it's just insane.
Like Alice in Wonderland. Yeah.
It beats Sims by a lot. So that's what I've been playing a lot. I do a lot of other horror games, indie horror games, stuff like that.
Nice. Excellent.
Very nice.
Very good.
We could, after we wrap this up, we'll do the video game podcast right after. So hang on for that one. Kat, where can people look you up online?
Mostly you can find me on Instagram at shallow.crypt. Um, I also have a link tree that links to my blog where I do talk about goth fashion and my own honest opinions. And in I don't know when, but music is going to be coming out soon too. So stay tuned for that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Excellent. And Matt, what about you?
Well, I don't mind doxing myself. I'm going to share first and last name because you need that to find my work. I'm a Western artist, so I'm painting Western scenes while listening to Nox Novacula, but
Hell yeah.
I love that.
But Matt Atkinson Art. If you Google Matt Atkinson Art, you will find my Instagram and my Facebook, and that's what I do for a living. I'm a painter, oil painter, and a pencil artist. So that's where you will find my work.
How do you
Very
spell
nice.
the...
It's Atkinson.
Okay. Sorry.
And it's incredible, by the way. I know you're underplaying it, but your art is fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes, it is beautiful.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
This has been an absolute delight. Thank all of you so much for taking the time to hang out and share your thoughts. This has been absolutely wonderful for me to be a part of. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for
Yeah, I feel so honored talking with you guys. You guys are all very insightful and intelligent, and it's honestly an honor to be here.
Oh, dude, I agree. All of you are so amazing. I learned so much.
I feel the
learned so
same
much.
way about all of you.
Same with all of you.
Yeah.
I love hearing from
We're going right back around.
my own goth community. You guys are great.
We always end with a circle jerk. It's fine.
The merry-go-round of compliments. Yeah.
Well, here's your happy ending. Danny and Trey, I've been with both of you for so long, listening to you for so long. Never thought I would get a message inviting me, but it's a dream come true.
Yeah, no, I just about exploded when I got that message. I'm not gonna lie. I was so happy.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, you guys, Kat, I've been reading your blog. When you had your Wix site up for a long time. Loved everything you've ever published, and Matt, your Atkinson. It's the whiskey. River is fantastic.
River's my son. Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
River is awesome.
Ryan has great taste in people, and it's been really nice to hang out and talk with you. And Beezy, likewise, I love all your content, your videos. It's super cool.
I love getting introduced to you, and I've been devouring your videos over the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
I was listening to your videos while I was on hold to start, so I just found them. So.
Oh my gosh. Yay. That's awesome.
I like that you, Beezy, I like the fact that you talk about a lot of the topics that you have are things I'm actually extremely interested in. Because I feel like looking at a lot of other goth YouTubers, it's just not my jive. I don't know how to describe it, but it's this is nice and cute and vlogs and whatnot, but where's the meat? You know what I mean?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a massive fan of Bob's Burgers, but I do like Bob's Burgers, so that was fun to watch that video too.
Oh, okay. Thanks for watching it, even if you're not a fan. That's very sweet. I
am a fan. I'm just not a super fan, I like the show.
Yeah. My boyfriend's just you should talk about things that you like and interest as well.
Definitely.
Yes.
I was yeah, that's a good idea.
It's the messiness of life.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All of it.
Yeah, exactly. Bob's Burgers is not very goth, but it's really.
I think they had goth
at the same
in
time.
an episode, didn't they?
Yeah, they had. They had 2
They went to a
episodes. There's
goth club
one.
or something.
Which
there was a goth band or punk. They're more like punk. And Tina was I want to be like them. I want to be cool. But then the message of the episode was that she was perfect the way she is.
Aww.
Yay!
And,
which of those kids do you think is most likely to go goth?
Louise.
For sure.
I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest Bob's Burgers fan, but I've watched so many seasons of it back to back.
Yeah.
So I have I have a deep appreciation for the show, but I don't know why it can't 100% click with me, but I appreciate it.
Right. That's fair.
Well, that means it's time for some post-show musings from yours truly. But before I get to that, I'd like to again thank everyone who was a guest on this episode, and just mention that if you enjoy this podcast and you want to support what we do and help allow us to continue to do it, consider heading over to Patreon, if you will. That's patreon.com/cemeteryconfessions. And there you can find what sort of rewards you will be able to get based on which level. But honestly, as I've mentioned before, Patreon is primarily a crowdfunding sort of mechanism to allow Trey and myself the time to be able to put the effort into this show. So if you want to show your support, even $1 a month would make a difference. And you can do that by heading over to patreon.com/cemeteryconfessions. And of course, a great big thank you to everyone who continues to support us over on Patreon. So I'm very happy with this episode and the conversation here, and sort of the discussion around the dumbing down of the values and ideals and identities of Goth, and the way that the substance of a Goth identity is flattened and commodified, even openly embracing corporations, right? We've seen a lot of the sort of McDonald's and Wendy's big titty goth girl thing, which you wouldn't see that in the actual goth scene. And sort of talking about how the sexiness of goth was always through the lens of self-liberation, the breaking of cultural norms, being queer, being strange, even unsettling, instead of this sort of palatable, standard sexist trope of women through the male gaze being kind of repackaged through a surface level aesthetic of subculture that removes any of the substance, any of the subversive or rebellious potential of the community. And I see that sort of analysis missing from a lot of the discussions online about what the root cause of this is. You know, that idea that I mentioned before of goth being a pure self-expression, you be whoever you want to be, and that's the beginning and that's the end of goth, is such a anemic and shallow understanding, because what we want to get at is what's underneath that. If you're coming at that from the direction of the rugged individual, then, which is a very neoliberal, conservative fairy tale to distract from the way that the modes of production sort of take complex identities and commodify them into cogs in this machine of industry, where it promotes the illusion of individual choice and of every man is their own island, when in reality, as we talked about with the personal is political, we are all intrinsically entwined and entangled with our environment, with each other, with our ideologies, and with politics. But if you have no basis, no foundational structure for what it means to be a pure individual, then yeah, you can have someone who thinks that, like Jake Monroe, gets into white nationalism and starts going over talking points about how immigration is the cause for all of our problems. You know, you get into the atomization, into the white genocide, and all of these truly horrific beliefs, because there's no guardrails on there. It's just be whoever you want to be, and that's what it is. Whereas you might instead say that having the freedom to be yourself, having the freedom to express yourself, extends to the downtrodden, to the tokenized, to the minorities, to the racialized, and sees through the rhetoric and the brainwashing that comes with nationalism, for example, by establishing a society where the free development of each is the condition of the free development of all. That's from the Communist Manifesto. So any sort of ideology like conservatism leans into the alienation and atomization that comes with capitalism, which is why there's, a discussion of class consciousness is so important, because a lot of that infighting and finger pointing can be attributed to these systems that are built to reward and emphasize the difference between groups in the working class, so that we are fighting amongst each other and focusing on our differences rather than taking action against the politicians and the wealthy who own the politicians. So when you get these goths that are quote unquote goths talking about how trans people shouldn't be part of the goth scene and why J.K. Rowling did nothing wrong and on, those ideas are being reinforced by the structures that run the country. It's not anything rebellious. It's not anything transgressive. And that, in my mind, goes against the foundations of goth, which is why we need to be clear about what those foundations are. And, the alienation aspect of that is explicit in the behavior of men doing the sexualization and infantilization of women in the context of this episode. And a lot of that behavior derives from the alienation and dissatisfaction and lack of fulfillment that men feel through patriarchal social expectations, that they are supposed to live a certain kind of life to express manhood in a certain prescribed way that they are incapable of doing. And so we see this loneliness and anger that should be directed at those systems of patriarchy, of misogyny. We should see the rage directed in that direction, but instead men are socialized to direct it towards those below them in the social hierarchy, which in turn is just reinforcing the structures that put them in that situation in the first place. So without getting into the question again of what is goth, I'll kind of point you towards my YouTube channel, where I have a series of videos that expounds upon and dissects that question into a robust definition. I would simply point away from neoliberal ideas of individualism and towards freedom of expression that the power of groups and communities can employ through organizing and through action. Right? What is a goth club if not a space that we have forcibly carved out for ourselves to be able to express our lives in the way that best fits us? The motive behind that behavior, I hope, for most of us, is that everyone would be afforded that freedom and free from stigma and persecution simply for their sexuality or the color of their skin or where they were born. I think it's a simplistic but powerful image to remember that a lot of us came to this community because we were bullied and because we were ostracized, and that we don't want to stand for ideologies that are protecting the bully. So there's my free-form, unprepared rant for my sort of closing thoughts as I wrap this up. So with that, I would like to thank you for listening, for allowing us into your space, into your life for this period of time. I hope you will subscribe, and I hope you will return for our next episode of Cemetery Confessions. So until then, stay dark.
The preceding program is a member of The Belfry, a network of blogs, podcasts, and videos for the darkly inclined. Go to thebelfry.rip for more information.